The sirens screamed like devils in the night, slicing through the humid air of Southside Chicago. Tyrone Collins froze mid-step, his hands instinctively lifting a reflex carved into his bones by years of police stops. But the sirens weren't for him. Not tonight. Or so he thought. He ducked into the narrow alley between two brick buildings, cigarettes still burning between his fingers. Somewhere behind him, blue lights bounced off wet asphalt, painting the world in fear and suspicion. It was supposed to be a fresh start. 6 months out. Clean. No violations. Tyrone was working on his resume at the community center just yesterday, helping Miss Lopez print out job applications. He hadn't seen trouble since stepping out of Stateville, and he sure as hell hadn't killed anyone. So when the squad car slowed beside him and a voice barked, "Tyrone Collins' hands where I can see them," the pit in his stomach opened wide and deep. He didn't run. Maybe he should have. But even a rabbit knows when the hounds are too close. The interrogation room smelled like sweat, bleach, and regret. Tyrone sat stiff, staring at the one-way mirror. The fluorescent light buzzed above his head like a fly too stubborn to die. Detective Harlan entered with a thick folder, and the kind of smirk that made you want to punch or pray. Maybe both. "You know Keisha Landry?" the detective asked, tossing down a glossy crime scene photo. Blood. Concrete. A pale hand with red nails. Tyrone flinched. "Numbered never seen her in my life." "Then explain why your print is on her window, just 3 feet from her body." His mouth went dry. "Print? What print?" Harlan leaned forward. "Partial palm, left hand. We ran it twice. It's yours." Tyrone's left hand curled into a fist. "That can't be right. I wasn't there. I don't even know where there is." The detective's eyes didn't blink. "Her apartment. On 83rd. You know the building. You used to hang with Marcus Cole. He lived 2 floors down. You telling me you never went up there?" "That was years ago. Maybe once." "That's all it takes." Tyrone swallowed the fire in his chest. "I'm telling you the truth." Harlan shrugged like it didn't matter. "Your record says otherwise." Public defender Marissa Chen was fresh out of law school, fast-talking and fast-thinking, but even she looked pale when she saw the file. "They've got motive, means, and forensic evidence," she muttered, scanning the document, "which is ridiculous, because you have an alibi. I was with Miss Lopez, and 3 kids from the center. We were making a damn LinkedIn profile." Marissa looked up. "She's willing to testify. But they're saying the print places you at the scene within 6 hours of time of death. You got a history, Tyrone. That's what they care about." "I didn't do this." His voice cracked. "I got out. I'm trying." "I believe you," she said, "but that won't be enough." On the street, whispers began to spread. Tyrone back at it again. "Heard it was some girl this time. Can't outrun who you are." He walked home with his hoodie up, past graffitied walls and locked up storefronts. Southside had a memory. It never let you forget. Back in his apartment, Tyrone stared at his left hand. Same one he broke on a steel bed frame in prison. Same one that used to punch, steal, survive. But that hand had typed job applications, carried groceries for old ladies, wiped sweat from his brow after a long shift at the boxing gym. And now it threatened to bury him again. He opened his phone and texted Miss Lopez. "You sure you saw me the whole time yesterday? They say I was at a murder scene." Her reply came fast. "You never left. I'll say it under oath." But something didn't sit right. Tyrone replayed his day over and over in his head. He'd touched no windows, no apartments, no blood. So how? Unless... He sat up, heart racing. Unless the print wasn't new. Unless it had been there for years. Unless someone found it and used it. He had to find out. He had 6 days until the arraignment. 6 days to prove he hadn't killed a woman he'd never met. And someone out there was counting on him failing. Tyrone didn't sleep that night. The ceiling fan spun above him like a slow clock, ticking away what little time he had. He stared at the cracks in the plaster and tried not to think of jail bars slamming shut. Again. By sunrise, he was already on the 79 bus. heading toward the only place that might hold answers, the apartment building where the murder happened. He hadn't been there in years, not since Marcus got caught up in a robbery gone bad. The place looked the same: sagging window units, cracked concrete steps, and a busted security camera above the front door, still dangling by a wire. Nothing changed on the south side but the bodies. He rang the buzzer marked Landry. No answer. Of course. A middle-aged man in slippers opened the main door, mumbling about trash pickup. Tyrone slid inside before it closed, keeping his hood low and pace slow. Third floor, apartment 3C. Yellow tape still clung to the doorframe like cobwebs. He stood there, staring at the space where his print had been found. The window. It wasn't broken, just dusty, like everything else. He didn't touch it, not this time. But something made him lean closer. A small chip on the windowsill, paint flaked. Familiar. That was the spot. He remembered it now faintly. He had leaned against that same window almost 8 years ago, waiting for Marcus to bring up some beer. The party never happened. Cops raided the building. He got booked for weed possession. Could a print last that long? He pulled out his phone and searched, "How long can a latent fingerprint survive?" Answer: depends. Weeks, months, even years under the right conditions. His breath caught. That meant it was possible that someone had found an old partial and ran it. But how did it end up in a fresh murder case? He needed help. Not just a lawyer. Someone who understood the system or how to beat it. "You want me to what?" Marcus Cole asked, leaning across the cafe table. "Just tell me who's been in that building. Who's got pull?" Marcus scratched his beard. He'd gotten clean, started doing HVAC repair, had 2 kids now, but he still knew things. "They found your print on Keisha's window?" Marcus asked, his voice low. Tyrone nodded. "I never met her, I swear. She dated a guy named Leon Snap Jennings. Used to hustle down on 85. Word is, she was gonna testify about something." Tyrone frowned. "Testify against who?" Marcus shrugged. "Nobody's saying, but Snap's crew? They don't play. Think they could have planted it? The print? You think these dudes got access to police databases?" "No. But what if someone else did?" Marissa Chen nearly dropped her coffee when Tyrone burst into her office. "I found something," he said. "My print is old. Like, years old. I was there in 2016. That building, 3rd floor, apartment next door. It's possible it never got cleaned off." Marissa blinked. "You're saying it was lifted recently but deposited years ago?" "Exactly. Then the question becomes, who lifted it? And why now?" She looked thoughtful. They never explained how they found the print. Just said it was part of scene evidence. "We need the forensics report. Full chain of custody." "Can you get it?" "I can file a motion, but it'll take days." "I don't have days." Marissa stood. "Then, we better make some noise." They found a sympathetic reporter at the Tribune. Tyrone gave her his story carefully. No details that would break the case, but enough to ask the real question: how does a man's past become his noose again? By the time the article went live, the comments were brutal. "Once a thug, always a thug. Cry me a river. He probably did it. Look at the stats. You think this guy's innocent?" Tyrone read every one. Every single one. And still, he kept going. 3 days later, Marissa showed up with papers. "Chain of custody came in," she said, breathless. "Something's off." "What?" "The fingerprint was lifted using a private contractor, not CPD crime lab." "What does that mean?" "It means the person who ran the scan, the one who matched it to you, wasn't a cop. They were hired. Outsourced." Tyrone's heart pounded. So whoever lifted it could have faked it? Or found it somewhere else and planted it as evidence? "Do we know who?" Marissa flipped a page. "Name's Christopher Vellman. Used to work in forensic tech for the city. Got fired in 2020 for ethics violations. Guess where he's working now?" "Where?" "A private firm that contracts with the DA's office. They handle overflow forensics, including this case." Tyrone sat down hard. "So the same guy who got canned matched my print to a murder I didn't commit?" She nodded. "It's a start. We can build on this. But what about the woman who died? Keisha. Still no suspects. But there's something else. She handed him a photo, a still frame from street cam footage. A black SUV, tinted windows, parked outside Keisha's building the night she died. It was registered to Leon Jennings. He sold it 2 days after the murder. We don't know to who. Tyrone stared at the grainy image. Then let's find out. 2 days to arraignment. The system was moving faster than justice. And someone was covering their tracks. Whoever killed Keisha had framed Tyrone with a ghost of his past. But ghosts have a way of coming back to haunt the living. And Tyrone wasn't done fighting. Not yet. The courtroom buzzed like a hive of vultures. Arraignment day. Tyrone sat in a suit 2 sizes too small, hands clasped, eyes on the ground. He could feel the eyes of the judge, the bailiff, even the janitor, all of them looking and thinking guilty until proven otherwise. But he wasn't walking into that cage without swinging. Marissa leaned in, whispering, "The judge will hear us out, but we don't have much time." Tyrone nodded. "Let's crack it open." 2 hours earlier, they had met with an old friend of Marissa's, a forensic investigator named Jamie Lynn, who had worked with the Innocence Project. Jamie wasn't cheap, but she was sharp. Jamie held up a plastic slide. "This is the lift from the laundry scene," she said. "You were right, it's degraded, not fresh. There are micro cracks and particulate layers consistent with long-term exposure to dust and humidity. This thing could be 10 years old." Marissa's eyes widened. "Can you testify to that?" "Gladly. But there's more." She pointed to a data sheet. The scan timestamp from the Vellman firm was altered. The metadata shows a creation date of 2023, but the original lift was logged in 2016. I pulled the archived logs. Someone relabeled an old print as new. Tyrone stood. So they had this print the whole time? And only matched it to the murder now? Worse, Jamie said. It wasn't collected from the crime scene. It was taken from the old building, maybe from archived prints. They inserted it into the case manually. A frame job. Jamie nodded. At a forensic level? Marissa muttered. They didn't just pick a suspect, they built one. Back in court, Marissa rose, calm but deadly. Your Honor, we request immediate dismissal of charges based on tainted forensic evidence and a conflict of interest with the prosecution's contractor. Judge Ramirez raised an eyebrow. That's a serious accusation, Counselor. We can prove the fingerprint was mislabeled and misrepresented. Our expert witness has forensic proof the lift is years old and improperly included. The DA objected, loudly. But the judge held up a hand. Let her speak. Jamie took the stand, laying it all out. The degradation pattern, the metadata inconsistencies, the contractor's firing record. By the end, the courtroom had gone silent. Judge Ramirez removed her glasses. This court cannot proceed with charges based on compromised evidence. Case is dismissed. Mr. Collins, you're free to go. Tyrone didn't smile. He didn't cheer. He just breathed. Outside the courthouse, the sky was gray, the wind thick with spring rain. Reporters swarmed, but he ignored them all. Marissa stood beside him, arms crossed. You're clear, but not safe. What do you mean? The contractor Vellman, he didn't do this alone. Someone told him to plant that print. Someone powerful enough to bury a murder case. Tyrone's jaw tightened. You think it was Snap? He had motive. Keisha was going to testify against him. That SUV didn't vanish. It was passed, probably, to someone he trusts. Tyrone looked down the street. Then let's find it. It took 3 more days. Jamie called in a favor from a contact in traffic cam archives. They found the SUV again parked outside an abandoned auto garage on 86th. Tyrone and Marissa went there. No cops, no media, just quiet. The smell of oil and rust. Inside, they found a phone, and on it, videos. Keisha's voice, crying, speaking to someone. I know what Leon did. I'm done covering for him. I'll testify if I have to. Tyrone's breath caught. The next clip was silent. A door creaked, footsteps, then a sharp gasp. And then nothing. The DA's office opened a new investigation. Leon Snap Jennings was arrested 2 weeks later, trying to board a plane out of O'Hare. Velman disappeared. 6 months passed. Tyrone got a job, real job. Construction admin. Still worked with Miss Lopez at the community center on weekends. He was still watched, still judged, but now, when people whispered, they said other things. Man fought the system and won. He's got proof now. Maybe we were wrong about him. The city didn't change overnight. The South Side still held its shadows. But so did Tyrone. And he'd learned to live in the light, even if it burned.